Hydrate power. You're in the dog zone for an hour. Come on. You know the number. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. Yeah, 9,000.
Welcome to the Zzone 9000, the official podcast of 1-900 Hot Dog, America's last comedy website. If you remember laughter, we still do that. Every single weekday, talented, well-paid human comedians write carefully researched, long-form comedy about cursed media that never should have been. You can come join us, get access to hundreds of top-secret bonus episodes, team-up articles, a thriving Discord community, we do meetups, even more than that I'm probably forgetting. Come support us at patreon.com/1900hotdog, because we're it, baby. We're the last stand of comedy. If we die, it's just joke robots devouring their own shit forever. Like these 10 kidney puns from punsteria.com. Did you hear about the kidney that went to art school? It became a magnificent filter.
Whoa.
I donated my kidney to a marathon runner. Now I'm left with a half marathon. No matter how much you study kidneys, you won't pass renal Oxford.
God damn it.
What did the left kidney say to the right kidney? Hey, buddy, when's our next filter party?
That's a filthy thing. I mean, I've been to a filter party, and it is disgusting.
I'd make a joke about kidneys, but I'm worried you might find it a bit renal.
That's the R word.
I'm so bad at telling kidney jokes, I'll probably just end up unurinating a few people. I like that it knows it's doing like the Rodney Dangerfield kind of self-aware, whoa, this one's bombing, and then it still goes for it. Why did the tennis player donate his kidney? He wanted to give a good serve renal.
I mean, that's obviously a 10 out of 10 joke.
I've always wanted a pet kidney, but it would probably just end up in the renal cycle. Getting dark. Everybody knows what that is. And how pets go there.
Yeah, that's when you make a smoothie out of a cat.
To die is the implication? When my kidney failed, I was so upset I started urinating. Then I realized it was just a stream of consciousness.
When Punsteria, takes in a second concept and, sometimes it knows, it's like, I didn't quite make a joke with that slur of words. I should try again. And then it adds on a second element, and that's when I think that it starts to work.
I mean, none of that is anything.
No. It's not coherent, but it's like madness in a unexpected direction. So it technically has a turn, like a proper joke. It's more like the rhythm of a joke. It's like, ba-ba,
yeah,
ba-ba,
that's
ba-ba. You're like, okay, Punsteria. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the gauge is whether or not, if you told 100 of these back-to-back as fast as you could, which one would people not be like, wait, hold on. I think maybe that one's one of them.
I just think it sounds like a foreign person trying to, make fun of how English people talk. Like, if someone was to watch Rodney Dangerfield from Italy and they went blah, 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 blah. You're like, hey, that guy sounds like he's been listening.
Yeah, that's an impeccable Rodney Dangerfield impression.
Yeah.
Considering you don't speak the language. Your final joke, why don't kidneys like heavy metal? They prefer smooth jazz filtration. If you hated that, and you did, come support us. Patreon.com/1900hotdog. We're the only other option. I'm Renal Robert Brockway, and with me is Urine Party Seanbaby.
Filter.
And our guest, smooth jazz filtration, Jason Pargin.
Hello, and before we get started, I want to explain, even before we get into the plugs, I want to explain to the listeners, this is a little bit different today. Because yesterday, and we do record these a little bit in advance, but we got a message on our corporate Slack. Message came in from Sean saying, hey, this is Sean, CFO. This is he did call it a mandatory all hands meeting, conference call, and basically we all got it on. He said, look, normally, we cover these just random cursed pieces of media, kind of dissect what madman made this thing, but just got word that Trump was found guilty on all 34 charges in his hush money trial in New York. So we need to do an emergency pod on the fact that the Gorilla Piss guy has made a third video.
It all ties together.
Yeah.
It's all a symptom of the poison infecting America, which you can filter out by pissing like a gorilla. I'm not sure what the segue is.
You're
there.
making a kidney joke. You're making a Punsteria kidney joke. In
You're
real
right.
time.
It's in my brain.
You're growing an
I
extra
got the
finger as
algorithm.
we speak. The AI's inside you.
That's right. Today we're talking about Gorilla Flow. Before we do that, Jason's getting too excited again. Jason, where can people find more of you?
It's just part of the format at this point. I am Jason K. Pargin on TikTok and all of the other social media platforms except the ones that the teenagers keep to themselves. I don't know how to use Snapchat. Also, the book that I'm promoting is up for pre-order. It is called I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. It is a standalone novel. You don't have to have read anything else I've ever written to understand it. It's up in every format, including audio. No, I do not read the audiobook. That would be a disaster. They hired a professional.
I can vouch for it. I gave you 1 billion pull quotes, didn't use any of them.
Do you want to do another right now?
This book will make you piss like a gorilla out of your dick.
That's a guarantee. Put a guarantee at the end of that. You got sales, baby. That's how you get sales.
Legally actionable claim, and we stand by it.
Yes.
God damn it. If you don't act now, the gorillas are going to eat every single one of Jason's books, and you'll never get one. Like, it's a limited supply. There's civil war.
Yeah, it'll
In
kill the
Africa?
gorillas too.
Either you or these endangered gorillas are going to have piss powers, one or the other. So it's between you and them.
When your family is dead to gorilla piss, just cut in half like a laser. Then you'll regret it. You wish you bought right now.
It's a reverse Congo. You're describing a reverse Congo.
Imagine if you don't know what Gorilla Flow is, which you could. You could have just
very
maybe skipped
possible.
that one podcast.
You think it's possible someone hasn't listened to our 250 podcast episodes?
And then you would be really confused about every single thing that your favorite author just said. Okay, so Gorilla Flow, we found very obscure, as in I think it had 30 views at the time that we found Gorilla Flow. It was an hour-long infomercial for pills that would make you piss like a gorilla. Only the entire thing, it was breathless. The guy never stopped talking, and every single sentence escalated the stakes. And it started with just his exploding piss balloon father, and he was gonna mercy kill him because he couldn't bear to see this strong man suffer incontinence. It's fucking crazy at the start, and then it gets weirdly racist in I think new direction. I don't think that invented.
He definitely invented some new racisms.
Right, he eavesdropped on his African tribal friend pissing and was so floored by how powerful this man's piss was that he must know his secret. And it turned out he was hiding a secret. So the African tribes are greedily hoarding the cure for prostate issues and therefore the superpower of ultra piss. We determined he certainly hates his wife. He's wiping out the mountain gorilla to make this supplement.
A lot of that is self-loathing. He's ashamed of himself in front of his wife, and he's projected that shame onto her.
It's definitely his problem if any of that existed, which it doesn't. He's making it all up. I really hope. Otherwise, this is the worst man who has ever lived, and we have to form a team to take him down immediately. That man's name is Dr. Leo Shub. We looked him up. He is a real guy. He's a real doctor with a real medical practice, and that's his real name that he's putting on this.
It's fucking crazy.
Fucking the craziest thing I've ever heard. He made a second one called 2PT. We made a podcast about that one, too. You can go look for the Gorilla Flow in the 2PT podcast. 2PT, just a straight boner pill, but it's a boner pill that was discovered by ancient sex cannibals to save their race from the Portuguese Inquisition, I believe.
Portuguese smallpox, I think.
That's right. They had to fuck poor geriatric cannibals. Had to fuck extra, with the strength of 100 men just to save their race, which they did thanks to a special tea and maybe a fire dance ritual.
He tried it. His wife caught him doing that, though. That goddamn wife of his. And did not like his boner ritual dance that he.
I've got to say, I got to break in here with some feedback, guys. If a listener has not heard either of those two episodes, they are far more confused now than they were before, because your attempt to try to distill this down into a quick summary to try to bring them up to speed, it's impossible. Just a labyrinth of madness. It just, because you're forced to try to summarize all of the crazy turns in this guy's hour-long dick supplement infomercials that he made. It's not your fault. It could not have been done. It's just that if someone is coming in on this episode, they have to think we're doing a bit where we've made up a fake thing.
I would like to clarify Jason's clarification. The original source material, if you listen to it, is an even denser labyrinth of madness than what we've just said. So it's each layer that you try to explain it is crazier than the last. It's impossible. You just have to kind of experience it.
When we prepare podcasts, whether it's for Big Feats or for this, a lot of it is writing down the crazy shit someone said on TV. And when we did those podcasts for the Gorilla Flow and for the 2PT, it was basically transcribing an hour-long video because he never said anything that wasn't absolutely crazy.
Oh, there is not a wasted second in his 2 hours of infomercial on these dick pills, these dick supplements he's selling. There is not it just skips from one mind-boggling thing to another.
We also forgot to mention it's all like generic stock footage that he is cutting together into a completely insane narrative. Like when he discovers his father has like some form of incontinence. The stock footage cuts to a man grabbing a pistol and then a gunshot and like CGI blood splatter covers the screen like he's just gonna fucking shoot him like a horse.
My father's not gonna die in a fucking diaper.
Those were, whatever we just said, I disassociated. That was the first 2 podcasts we found. We found not a full third one. We found something even crazier. We found the Gorilla Flow director's cut. He made an alternate cut with new material of Gorilla Flow. It's only a few minutes, mostly at the start, a little bit at the end, a couple of little parts in the middle. It's all fucking crazy. It's such dense crazy that we are going to unpack pretty much the whole thing. I'm assuming that'll take the rest of the podcast.
Easily. Did you know that he also had another product? He might have many products, but I found another one called Endo Pump. Did you find that when you were looking up Leo's show?
Yeah, I didn't find an hour-long manifesto begging to be institutionalized for the rest of his life, but I did find Endo Pump.
But yeah, it was like he made a non-racist, non-promoted, non-marketed, like, boner pill.
I think that might have been the first one.
Yeah, maybe. He's like, nobody's buying it. What if I add a little cannibalism, little racism, little shame?
What if I kill my father? Okay, so let's get into the new material for Gorilla Flow. It is an entirely new intro. Instead of all that shit about finding his dad and realizing he's gonna die and piss just like his dad, and maybe it'd be better if he killed him, it starts like this.
As I reached up to pick the strange-looking cherry, I heard a snap in the brush behind me. "Dr. Shub, do not run. Be submissive," the tour guide shouted. Well, from personal experience, I can tell you, when a fully grown male silverback gorilla charges you as he pounds his chest like King Kong, being submissive comes quite naturally. Doing my best to remain calm, I stepped in front of my wife and bowed my head like a defeated samurai. A moment of tense silence followed as we waited to see what the great ape would do. And for the briefest moment, I imagined tomorrow's headline in the local Namibian paper. "Idiot doctor on honeymoon is torn to pieces by giant silverback gorilla. His bride survives and quickly marries someone smarter."
I love that he starts an infomercial with a cold open like a horror movie. Like there's a separate thrilling bit that we have to get into this 5 minutes to get the audience hooked so that we can tell our narrative. And in this one, he's getting into like a mental samurai duel with a great ape.
On his honeymoon.
On his honeymoon, that's where he went.
So on their honeymoon, they went to Namibia. For people who are already fans of the Leo Shub extended cinematic universe, are already asking, well, now hold on. Is this retconning how he came in to know about the gorillas and the gorilla cherries? Like, because before, obviously, it was his African tribal friend who he listened to urinate for several minutes from just outside the door. No. We'll explain it, but, no?
Yeah, no.
What?
The strange cherry. It's like when you watch like a prequel movie made 30 years after the original, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And it's like, "I don't really have a name." They're like, "You got to have a name and a vest to you, and we also have to explain the gun you're carrying." Okay, I don't know. I'm all by myself, so maybe call me Solo. And they're like, "Huh?" And then you wait for the whole audience to gasp. I feel like that's what that cherry was, where he's like, I reached up to pick this strange cherry.
You know what that is.
Yeah.
The fan favorite cherry.
Yeah, the fans popped for that. And it's true, I did. I was like, fuck yeah, cherry, yeah! He's gonna piss like a gorilla, woo!
We're getting ahead of ourselves. We've not gotten to that part of the story. Right now, he is staring down the silverback gorilla. It's pounding his chest, and he has bowed his head in total submission, just as the Mountain Monsters crew would have done in the same situation.
Mm-hmm. Like a mighty samurai might.
But still extremely cool, even in submission.
Yeah.
I'm like a mighty samurai in the way that I submit to a superior male. The gorilla in this case is the shogun, I guess, is how the gorilla hierarchy works.
Yeah, I think there was a twist here because he's like, let me tell you from personal experience, when a King Kong silverback male gorilla is charging you, I thought he was going to say like, you're going to run. But no, he's like, oh, being submissive is super easy. Trust me. As a samurai, as a mighty Dominican Dr. Samurai.
My honor knows when to bend to the mighty ape. And in this case, I was correct. Here's how that continues.
The gorilla's snarl and chest slapping, which sounded like he was hitting a pair of tightly tuned bongo drums, snapped me out of my daze. For the briefest moment, I looked up and saw his oh-so-human eyes piercing my soul. Then the beast began to stalk off on all fours. I held my new bride's wrist tightly, hoping and praying that we'd walk away with an amazing honeymoon story instead of being torn limb from limb.
The bongos.
The bongos.
The little jaunty bongo riff.
I think that was a real gorilla sound. I think that's kind of a little popping noise they make with their mouth sometimes when they brachiate.
Well, it was supposed to be him pounding his chest. He pounded his chest like tight little bongos, and then he played some bongos over stock footage of a gorilla pounding his chest. So the gorilla's just like playing a little jazz riff on the old chest there.
This footage they use is, I've actually seen this footage. It's the footage you get if you search for like gorilla footage. This is the clip you'll get. It's a viral gorilla video of this gorilla coming by, and he just like grabbed a tour guide and just kind of pulled him into the brush just to kind of show everybody I could kill you all. Like most people have seen this. It's very famous footage.
And yet he didn't use the moment where the gorilla grabs the guy and pulls him into the brush. And that's like the terrifying moment.
Yes.
So what? That would have been like your clincher. It's crazy not to use that, to use all the footage around that, which is kind of nothing, and then not use the one remarkable moment. Also, I forgot to mention that when he says, like, I could just see the headlines the next day, a little CGI newspaper spins up to the screen with the headlines of, like, stupid doctor killed, happy wife married again. But if you pay attention to the other story, it's the definition of what a gorilla is. It's just defining gorillas. That's what he thought the filler
name,
text
gorilla. Leo Shub has the comic timing of a guinea worm. Like, whenever he makes a joke, I get so fucking pissed off. And so when he's like, his bride survives and quickly marries someone smarter, it's so offensive to me. But still fascinating.
Here's what's fascinating. It's so bad as we have seen in my masterful opening to this episode, reading the Punsteria puns. We've seen what it looks like when AI fails, so it's just further proof that every word of this, of which there are many, many words, because he never stops talking, and he talks very fast, was written by a human being, which means the amount of time? Like, you would have to cut the stock footage? I don't think it's AI cutting the stock footage. It's so much effort.
For nothing.
For this madness. Okay, so we have just survived a gorilla samurai showdown. The gorilla is stalking off, I guess, placated, defeated, same thing, really. And then...
When the gorilla was about 20 feet away, he paused by one of the giant cherry trees and, without a sound, began to piss all over it. Piss is the wrong word, perhaps. It was more like a jet stream, spattering the tree and ricocheting off it like shrapnel from a grenade. Was he letting us know that this was his territory and we had trespassed? Did he drink 100 gallons of river water for breakfast that morning? Or maybe he just really, really hated that tree, because he was absolutely punishing it with his stream. which continued on for what seemed like minutes. Then, as quickly as he had appeared, the gorilla was gone. And so was my desire to ever go on an African safari again.
Okay, let me catch up anyone who may be listening to this podcast for the first time in their lives. Sean,
Good luck.
And Sean and Brockway they study human behavior and the fringes of human behavior using a method that they have developed. Maybe Sean developed it first, but by specifically examining the worst and weirdest pieces of media out there. Not like, oh, you're going to talk about the movie Madam Web. No, not the crap everybody's talking about. But really, really digging to the stuff that no one has seen. And these videos, again, this one had 25 views when they sent me the link. Because what is fascinating is that you start to uncover all sorts of madness that you didn't know existed. So like this guy who has now made 3 hours worth of epic infomercials that he spent probably months making to sell these just generic, it's male supplements. It's for, prostate health. You find out that the thing that he cares about most in the world and thinks that everyone else cares about is the force of your urine flow. Not saying, hey, you're unhealthy, this will make you healthier. He lives in a world where men are constantly judging each other by how hard they can piss. And he has
apes.
Example after example. Yeah, and between species, between tribes, he believes this is a worldwide phenomenon where if a man hears another man urinating very hard for very long, instead of thinking, wow, that guy really had to go, that he will be in awe and will submit to him as a more powerful male. And
Yes.
This comes through again and again. He does not know why this is weird. He kept saying, he's like, I know you don't get it. I'm telling you, you will literally be able to piss over a stack of soup cans, is what he said in one of the videos. Like that's
20 yards away.
Yeah, from 20 yards away, 60 feet away. Your stream, it will be literally harder than the stream from your garden hose. And he keeps hitting that over and over again. It's like, no, listen, I know you want this. I know you want to be able to pee so hard that you can actually damage things with your piss. Here scientifically is how this makes that happen.
And just for the listeners, I'm not crazy about your example, Jason, because the theme of Madam Web was how your piss stream can make others submit to you. That was like really central to that movie. But otherwise, yes, you're right. Like you once you lift up the rock, like out on the edge of society, that's when you find like, oh my God, there's like a whole bunch of slugs and grubs living under here we didn't know about.
He lights the fuck up. God, he comes to life when it starts describing piss flow.
So happy about it.
He's splintering that tree. It's splattering everywhere.
Maybe
It's
piss is
shattering
the
it
wrong word.
like shrapnel from a grenade.
Piss is the wrong word, perhaps. We need a
If
stronger
only
word
there
than
was
piss.
a more beautiful word for it. If there was only a more magnificent word. He's brutalizing the urinal. He's punishing that tree. It's so naughty. It's just naughty all the time.
Joy of it is that in the context, again, the thing's only 20 feet away from them. That's for a gorilla. If it was really that's one leap away from you. It's still 1 second away from killing you and your wife, right? So the fact that in this moment he has just come face to face with this thing, he thought he was going to die. Like if you were actually there, you would have trouble hearing because of the sound of your own blood pumping through your ears. Like your ears would be ringing. You would be sitting there vibrating. Your heart is hammering like, I'm going to die in the jungle. I'm literally going to have my limbs ripped off by this animal. This is a thing that is going to happen right now. And then it turns away. And while it's still in striking range, it stops to urinate on a tree. But it does it so hard that is the only thing you remember from the encounter. Is what an amazing pisser this animal was. It's like, good God, he is wailing on that tree with his piss.
All of that fear turns instantly to awe. I love just picturing what that looks like. If you take his actual words, that gorilla came out of nowhere, was about to just absolutely savage all of them. It turned away, and right as they're like, maybe we'll live through this, it started pissing, and so hard that it was shredding this tree, and then it just went on while they stood there in silence for several minutes. He says the word several straight minutes. Felt like several straight minutes. The comedy timing of that, of like just ambushing them with this terrible, horrible like surprise, and then stopping dead, and the piss just goes on, and everybody's like, "What do I do? Can we go? Or is this like a gorilla?"
I like to think that they pee like dogs too, where they like look to you while they pee. So that he was making full eye contact with this defeated samurai while he just sawed a tree down with its dick.
Yeah, although I'm also sort of picturing that scene from Predator where they're just shooting into the jungle and just cutting down half the jungle with their firepower. I'm just picturing just limbs and leaves flying everywhere and entire just trees falling over.
It's just everyone screaming into the jungle. If it pees, we can kill it. So this is his new backstory. Is he has had this encounter on his honeymoon that has made him. I'm gonna assume this is the origin of like his piss fetish. Like he saw that gorilla, it got all mixed up with the fear and the adrenaline, and like
he saw the look in his wife's eyes, his goddamn horrible wife's eyes.
It's his version of Crash. He's just like, oh yeah, that was horrible, but it awakened something. and this is my origin.
You're talking about Piss, the movie Piss?
Yes. This is the movie Piss, starring Andy Serkis as the gorilla.
I'm also imagining that they get back from the honeymoon. And again, this guy's a doctor. I assume they're fairly, high upper class people. And they're having like the fancy little dinner party back at their home. And they're drinking their wine. And one of their fancy guests asks, well, how was the honeymoon? What was Namibia like? Did you go in the jungle? And then the wife says, oh, yes, we had this amazing encounter. Like, I was scared to death. We actually came within 5 feet of a silverback gorilla and actually stared my husband down a little bit. I was terrified. Isn't that right, Leo? And then Leo says, yes. And then for the next 55 minutes talks about the force of this gorilla's flow.
Leo would have interrupted her long before she threw it to him. He's like, let me tell you about... No, honey, let me tell the story. The piss stream came from the beast.
And in his world, all the other men are just listening rapt. My God, did you follow him to steal his secret? His secret food source? No?
It's impossible to describe the piss of a gorilla. Gentlemen, until you've seen it splatter into your face, until you've watched it saw one of your wife's legs off.
Now, did the gorilla... And I'm sorry that I've already forgotten. He mentioned that the tree it was pissing on was one of the trees that had the special cherries, right?
He said it was a cherry tree.
Did the gorilla reach up and eat one of the special piss cherries to demonstrate these cherries let me do this?
Nope.
No, but There is a moment in what happens next. I'll play the next part of the clip.
Hello, my name is Dr. Leo Shub, and if you're a man over 45 who would rather die than go through the humiliating hell of wearing adult diapers, then you need to watch this video right now before it's too late. Why? Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to spit in the face of the greedy pharmaceutical companies trying to trick you into spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on dangerous medications. Show you why the masculinity-destroying scourge of estrogenic inflammation, not DHT, is the real reason your prostate is swelling to the size of a baked potato and choking off your bladder as we speak, and introduce you to a simple once-a-day ritual, even easier than brushing your teeth, that will have you pissing with the power of an alpha gorilla. Without the cost or side effects of Big Pharma's dangerous drugs, without surgery that involves cutting out one of the few glands that truly makes you a man, without the nightmare of ever having to wear adult diapers no matter how long you live, and even without the embarrassment of having to admit you have this incredibly common problem to your wife, your girlfriend, or anyone else at all.
Anyone else at all? You won't even have to tell your doctor. Thank God.
You know it's almost funnier in audio because... like, when the gorilla comes in and screams, it sounds twice as crazy. Because when he's talking about it and they show gorilla clip art behind him and the gorilla screams, you're like, well, yeah, that's what gorilla clip art does. And, like, something about it, like, it washes over your brain. But hearing the audio, you're like, is that a gorilla screaming while he's talking about his pee stream? And the clock ticking? Like, it's all just so crazy in audio.
And the swelling cinematic music as he's talking about, like, challenging Big Pharma to a piss-off, and, like, Big Pharma, it's all fucking crazy. I actually thought I took that clip a little bit earlier. What I was referring to Jason was, at the end, he does say, like, I found this strange luminous cherry that would change everything. So it was literally glowing. He looked up at this tree and found a glowing super cherry that would change everything, but he didn't know it yet because this took place 30 years ago. This was his flashback to his honeymoon 30 years ago.
But I do like the logic of watching the urine stream, literally cutting this tree down, and then looking up and seeing the glowing video game cherries above the gorilla, and immediately having the thought, as a man of science, oh, those must be the cherries that let him piss like that.
I would have jumped up, ate them, and pissed right on that gorilla. Like, I would have assumed it was the Contra power-up. Like, oh, that's how you do it. Okay, this is the game trying to teach me how to get this move.
I would have had a full Birdman Beam War where our pee streams meet in the middle and they just fight closer and closer to each enemy.
Just the Birdman Beam War. I love that that's your reference. That's mine would be the Dragon Ball Z, like...
Okay, yeah, sure. That exists too.
Much less approachable. That's silly.
Everyone remembers the 1967 cartoon Birdman.
And how they warred with their beams, specifically. So he goes into this whole... That's the start of his pitch about how, like, if you just listen to him, you won't have to go through the shame of having to admit this incredibly common problem. Did you hear what you just said? That part of it? It can't be incredibly common and so shameful you can never speak about it to anyone, even your doctor.
4 out of 3 men die in diapers in their 30s.
A woman is briefly mentioned, like you won't have to say it to your girlfriend. That's where you hear a witch cackle.
Yes. God, he hates women so much.
He hates them so much, even if they're just mentioned. Just briefly.
Specifically, in the previous 2 shows we've watched, the women in his life are never supportive whatsoever of his issues with his dong. And again, he's done 2 videos for some reason, somebody's just coming in on this episode. The 2 videos they conflict with each other. They're 2 distinct videos that tell 2 distinct different backstories to his life and how he became the dick herb supplement superhero that he is today. But in both versions, his wife is not, like in one, the fact that he has become impotent in his old age has caused his wife to start banging her young, sexy boss. And he only wins her back not by like being supportive or talking to her or anything. It's just he takes his own supplement and gets such a hard erection that his erection is harder than the erection of her boss. And so
Birdman Be More.
Yes,
they have a Birdman Be More.
She canceled that trip. She was going to go bang her boss in Mexico. And after he fucked her well enough, she's like, I'm going to go cancel that work trip.
Yeah, there's no need. Because your boner is now as hard or harder than my young, sexy boss, so I will start being loyal to you again. And then in the other one, the fact that he had become incontinent due to being 50-something and having a bad prostate, it was just the women in the movie theater and in his life were just pointing and screaming with laughter and saying, "You are not a man."
Although in his own story, that was internalized. Like one stranger did say, "Oh my God, did you piss yourself?" But his wife just kind of like looked at him, and he
knew.
Put a lot of meaning on that look.
I believe he felt his manhood streaming down his leg.
Yes,
he felt her respect for him streaming down his leg. That
was what it was.
As if it was so much piss. He was pissing away the respect she had for him as a man. So yes, he again in his mind. When a woman looks at a man, she sees only a penis, including how well does that penis urinate. It is something that is extremely important to the women of the world. And he connects those 2 things like, well, and also you'll be able to satisfy your much younger wife. He keeps emphasizing that your young wife will like it.
Yeah. And they don't teach you this in sex ed, that like your pee stream needs to be strong enough to like knock a hot dog out of your wife's mouth, but like not strong enough to like saw her head off. And it's like this, they just don't tell this to young boys. And so you grow up and it's a lot of experiment.
That tour guide, after that gorilla pissed that tree in half, that tour guide must have had to just leap on top of his wife and drag her back because she was trying to follow that gorilla. My God, what a man.
And Leo would have let her. He's like, she's right.
Like a defeated samurai. Take my wife.
He's trying to like commit harakiri with his own pee stream. He's like,
it's not strong enough. Oh, God.
I bounce this off my shaving mirror.
After this, Leo goes into his credentials. Now, this is consistent with his credentials in the other in the other infomercial. Should we call it Gorilla Flow Prime? We'll do it, because this is the alternate world. He says he's been the on-call doctor for specifically men's health issues for Pepsi, Walmart, Citibank, IBM, Coca-Cola, FedEx, American Airlines, UPS, Home Depot, and yes, even the FBI. None of them could piss for shit. Yeah. All of them were just...
Our agents aren't paying for shit. Get a shub.
This is one of the crazier things. He's added almost all of those. I think he just said like Pepsi and the FBI in the other video.
Yeah.
Because he is an actual doctor, and one of his specialties is occupational health. And that means if you hurt your knee at Home Depot or whatever, and you're on workman's comp, you come in and get checked out, and he's the guy that will fill out that form for you and say you go back to work. And so Dr. Leo thinks that means he's the top piss man for FedEx.
Doctor. Yeah, sure. And he has such terrible ethics. You know that he's on the side of the company. You know, he's the guy who comes in and says, you didn't hurt that at work, or you need to get back to work today. That's not even, you didn't even tear that ACL all the way.
See, we've discussed this before.
Yeah.
We just can't agree. I think he's the guy that helps you scam them. I think he's on your side. He's still corrupt and it's illegal.
Okay.
But for the common man, I think so.
Okay.
I'm sure all of those companies love having their names associated with this weirdly racist, woman-hating piss play, hour-long piss radio drama.
FBI's top doctor.
He goes on to explain that in this long career, he has helped thousands of men from age 40 to 102 escape the humiliating hell of prostate problems for good. 102?
102.
Who's the 102-year-old pissing a rocket stream? Because that would knock you over. It's fucking dangerous.
He's just shooting through the nursing home backwards in a wheelchair.
You would... If you piss so hard you could explode a secret cherry tree, as a 102-year-old, that's going to shatter all your bones.
Yeah.
You're just going to fold in on yourself. You're going to implode.
Shooting through the living room like a balloon.
Even if he's having problems, do not give a 102-year-old man this internet poison. It's going to dehydrate him so bad. Don't do it. Now, what this does different is this also includes some new customer testimonials from people whose lives have been saved by their forceful urination. Before I play this, I want to stress this is the complete clip, beginning to end. This is all of them. This is all of the testimonials included in this entire film. It is the exact order they are played in, and I have not doctored any of them. I swear to God, you're not going to believe me when you get to it, but I swear to God, this is all real.
Larry, early 40s, athletic. Never thought it could happen to me. It was humiliating. I'm this big, strong guy, but I found myself hiding in the stall trying to force out a few drops. I stumbled on your video and watched it like you said, and wow, Mike, 53. I thought I was going to have surgery, which would have killed my sex life for good. Thank you so much, Doc. I didn't know how much this problem was ruining my life before you helped me get rid of it for good. Peter, 87, was forced to wear adult diapers and told it was just the way it was before meeting the doc. I'm going to reveal the shock.
Stop. Okay, so...
Why? It's they're like, hey, buddy, can you do a different voice for each email? I can't do different voices. Hold on a minute. There's one.
I don't want to. We love Christopher Walken, I assume, unless he was involved in the death of Natalie Wood. But I don't think anyone thinks that he was. Google that if you don't know what I'm talking about. But he did ruin Dune 2 for me because he's doing the Christopher Walken voice as the Emperor of the Universe. And Christopher Walken has one of those voices where it sounds like someone doing a Christopher Walken impression. Yeah. I know that doesn't make sense, but I can't hear that as an actual accent that someone has. And so it's like, oh, the president of the universe is from a planet where everybody talks like this.
So the first two he doesn't do any voice. He does just like a normal guy voice, the exact same one for the first two. And it's like, let's shake it up. Let's do one for fun. 2 for you, 1 for me.
I love it. It's something to keep in mind. We've been finding this a lot lately in the cursed media we've been looking at, that sometimes we get a vibe that's wrong, and because it's easy to forget that madmen can also fuck around. That this guy's clearly a pee maniac, but that doesn't mean he can't just throw in a Christopher Walken impression. Just have a little fun, do some jokes.
To be real with you, it's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
No, it's fine. I knew exactly what was happening the second it started.
If I could do that, I would also do that for one of those testimonials that you could see and be like, I got to get a little praise for this.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to hear it.
Yeah, you just have to remember that even lunatics have a sense of humor. And
You know he's doing that around his weird scam office in Puerto Rico. And all of the nurses are like fucking sick of him talking about piss play in a Christopher Walken voice.
The spice must flow.
that's the best one. That's the best Walken, Jason, yours.
He just dips out of it. You can hear it at the end of that clip. He just drops it and immediately, no acknowledgement, not even a second to let it breathe, right back into the sales pitch. Like, yeah, it's just a little Walken.
Yeah,
just a little Walken.
Something I do. Yeah, okay,
Well,
back to it.
think most about is it's obviously not his first attempt at doing a Christopher Walken impression, and it's also not his 100th attempt at doing a Christopher Walken. This is a guy who has freely done his Walken in front of people before. And
It's just a window into his life that he's got like little talents. Like he probably can beatbox or something. He's like, I might beatbox a little on the next take. It's just, this guy's got these little landmines in his life. And if you hit him, you're like, oh no, this guy's been talking to Christopher Walken for an hour.
If you're listening to this, and you might, because we're the only people that have ever seen these videos and talked about them, do one just in the Walken voice. Next one,
It's the whole
Walken.
thing.
Whole
thing.
hour long. Yeah.
My friend
I'm telling
Kwame,
you.
he was in the bathroom for minutes.
I'm telling you, that'll be the key. That'll go viral. That's the one thing it's missing. So after that, he gives you the hard sell, like, I'm going to tell you about this important medical breakthrough. There's something so important I need to tell you first. This is how he puts all that.
I'm going to reveal the shocking truth about what I call estrogenic inflammation and how it's wreaking havoc with your prostate and putting your health at severe risk in just a moment. But first, it's incredibly important that I tell you how my own battle with estrogenic inflammation led to the most humiliating, emasculating moment of my life, and reveal why I risked and almost lost everything just to bring my shocking and life-changing discovery to you today. Big Pharma is terrified of the incredible truth I'm about to reveal to you and is threatening me with legal action as we speak. So stop whatever you're doing and watch this video right now before I'm forced to take it down for good. If you have any pride as a man at all, I know you can feel how humiliated I was when I pissed my pants like a 6-year-old and realized I was going to die in diapers just like my dad.
There's a massive medical conspiracy. They're coming for me. They might kill me for this. But you really need to know I pissed myself like a child. So did my dad. So did my daddy.
This YouTube description, actually, they typed out that this video may get taken down as soon as 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it's uploaded a year ago. Again, it had 25 views, and I think 6 of those are from us and the various hot dog people. So no, it apparently did. But I like how he just announces right off the top, hey, this is a scam. If the government sees this video, they will make me stop selling this. I just need to let you know now.
But
first,
disappear.
let me tell you about the worst night of my life.
About pissing myself at a Marvel movie. Because they make them too long. Fucking assholes.
So from here on out, is it a complete replay of the last? Because I admit I started watching it and it seemed like it was frame by frame now the same after this new prologue had been filmed.
There are a couple of bits, there's no new material. There are a couple of bits that are remixed in like order here and rephrased. And at the end, instead of ending in mid-sentence, which was the funniest possible way to end it, it does the 2PT thing where there's a very long silence and then he goes, still there? Good. And then he starts talking. Unlike 2PT, nothing crazy follows that. It's just like another hard sell. So it's not really worth talking about. Gorilla flow proceeds as normal from that point.
I made a special note when he first discovers the cherry was when he follows his friend to the bathroom and listens to him pee. And he's like, holy crap, this guy's peeing for so long. And then he comes out, he looks at me funny, but then I'm like, dude, you peed for so long. What's your secret? And then Kwame, his friend, just points to like the half-chewed food in his mouth. And it's like, oh, that weird red jerky you're eating all the time. I thought he would put something in to tie it back to the cherry from his honeymoon when he took his wife to the Namibian wilderness to pick cherries with gorillas. I thought he was going to say, hey, No, he didn't. But I thought like he's going to. He'll add a little ADR and say like, this is the cherry. 30 years ago, I saw the glowing cherry.
Sean, here's how big of a fool I am. Because when I watched that intro, I thought, I see what he's done. Somebody complained that his last video was explosively racist. So he took out all of the stuff about Kwame, including the fact that he was using a different stock photo clip of a different black man every time he referenced his friend.
Who also didn't know where his bathroom was. We remember that was the realization that hit us in the middle of the last podcast.
Then he cut that stuff out and then filmed a new explanation of how he knew about the cherries. Because like, I saw these on my honeymoon, saw a gorilla that could really piss hard, and saw it almost cut down a tree with the flow of its urine, saw there was these weird cherries up there. And then 30 years later, when I had to put my father down because of his piss problems, I had to shoot him in the head. I remembered back, I thought he was going to insert one more clip. I remembered back to my honeymoon and then started researching the Namibian gorilla piss berries, blah, 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 blah. No, he forgot to do that part. But I thought, this makes perfect sense. This is why he filmed that new prologue. It's so he could cut the racism out and do the non-racist cut of the video. But no, he left that stuff in. So it's like I went, 30 years later, my friend, my piss problems were making me, consider suicide, and I knew that my life was over. I heard my African friend pissing really hard. I listened in on it. I eavesdropped. And then I interrogated him, like, how do you piss so hard at your age? And then he explained that his tribe where he's from, there's endangered gorillas, and they steal their food to make piss jerky out of, and that they are literally legendary across the African subcontinent for the force of their flows. And so all that was left in. So now I have no idea why he added the new prologue, unless he just likes to do this.
I think it's for the walk-in.
Yeah.
Because you heard what it was like when we tried to do a Christopher Walken. We can't do that.
I thought it was fucking great. Yours was especially great.
This is almost 200 episodes of this podcast now. And this is our form of employment. And what we're doing right now is saying, yes, but what do these changes make to the Gorilla Flow lore? How does this retcon the Gorilla Flow Piss Universe? Let's discuss the implications. Like any other podcast would be talking about the Marvel Universe. Like, what does this scene in Madam Web do where they all the women band together and piss so hard that they levitate off of the ground? What does this scene do to the rest of the MCU? And we're here doing it with an infomercial with 20 views.
This is the dream.
This is secretly what I wanted to be on this episode to talk about, because I don't know if you guys realize this. There are YouTube channels. They're like young right-wing YouTubers that are still angry about The Last Jedi. Like, they're still doing videos about how Disney's woke leadership ruined Star Wars, and then how Rey was like a Mary Sue. They're still doing those videos today because they still do huge numbers. So they just keep going back to that well again and again and again. Like 20 more things that ruined Star Wars in The Last Jedi and spelled the end of Star Wars as we knew it. Because it works, it's what their fans want to hear about, so they just keep going back to it. So our well is something that we've gone back to where we represent literally the people talking about it, over 20% of the total audience of this video.
Yeah.
Are the people on this podcast. And we're now doing
trend chasers here.
Doing a third episode about it. Here's the thing. Listeners might be wondering, but why would Leo Shub do any of this? Because, of course, the world is absolutely full of these supplements. There's nothing proprietary about this. We looked it up last time. It's the same, like, urinary health supplements that don't do anything that you can buy anywhere. It's the same crap. It's the same combination of 4 or 5 different powders. And we speculated last time that there's just wholesalers that sell this stuff, and then you can just slap your own label on it. And everybody's got... Because you can even, this is not even like the only Gorilla branded one, because I actually went trying to Google this, found other people using a slightly different naming convention or whatever. This one is the only one where the guy has put his own face in a video, created these epic hour-long, not just infomercials, because everybody's seen infomercials before, but infomercials that have long, deep personal lore, stories that expose his own piss fetish, his own insecurities about his marriage, his own views of women, and the stories that all make him look like an absolute jackass at every turn, like in every possible way.
And that's how you sell, baby.
But we asked the question, Robert asked earlier about, do you think this was written by AI or whatever? And of course, no. A computer cannot be diseased in this way.
Yes.
No.
The day the computers are able to crank out something like this is the day that we will have won. Because when they were scanning our language to try to learn how to be people, they accidentally picked up the bad parts. And now they can't function because they're trying to build a robot body that can piss down a stack of soup cans from 60 feet away. When you are marketing something in this cursed media environment, Leo Shub realized this is the only way to stand out, which is to attach yourself to the product, make yourself and your personality part of the product, and then unveil yourself to the world as a maniac. The fact that the video only had 25 views
It didn't work.
Yep.
makes this so much funnier, because if this had gone viral and everybody was like, had been quoting it or whatever and referencing lines, it's like, okay, yeah, he won. He made himself look like a weirdo. He really, unveiled the part of his personality, but it went viral among a bunch of college bros and they all shared it, and it worked. It did what he... But no, it kind of seems like he did all this for absolutely nothing. Like, I would love to know exactly how many jars of Gorilla Flow, because the website's down. The link that was on that's on the YouTube uploaded, that website's dead.
Amazing. I saw this video. It was on the version we watched was on a YouTube channel called Off Grid Survivalist of the Year by a user named Purple Heart Recipient. The header of his thing said Daily Christian Faith Survival Health. And there's a picture of a book called Dark Age Defense. And that's just who this person was. There was all kinds of conspiracy stuff, Trump stuff, and all the thumbnails were like sexy AI girls. There's one I loved where it just said, the only way to plan for emergencies was the name of the video. And it was just like a vulva shot of a girl in tight shorts, like zoomed in on her butt, that had nothing to do with anything, with 30 views. He had the same thumbnail of a woman bent over in a miniskirt in a grocery store planning ahead for empty grocery store shelves, 20 views. And he just had a full wall of these videos of like big butt AI girls next to like, bananas are great for your health. And there's 1,000 people exactly like this, just dozens and dozens of YouTube channels linked to products like this, scattershot, vagrant sales pitches with no ethics. And I think that it just doesn't work anymore. Like Jason was talking about, Leo's trying to get viral with this, but I just don't think you can glue tits and insanity to your product and expect it to work. That's just the internet now. And
that's everything.
Yeah.
This guy's channel, it follows a very strange story, which is that it starts with all prostate videos. All of his early videos are just all prostate stuff. It's all videos like this, a lot of shorter ones, prostate, only prostate stuff. And then at some point he makes the hard swivel into survivalist and prepping. And then he starts doing them himself. He starts actually showing up to host them himself. So this is a guy's channel. It's the exact mind-blowing realization you have when you realize Dr. Leo's a real guy. That's his real name. He really wrote all of this and made this video. This is a real guy. This was his real channel that he's running all these prostate things on. They have 11 views. It's not for anything. There can't be somebody paying him any meaningful amount of money to do this. But it's a real guy. And then he pivots to his true passion, which, as Sean said, is big-ass blonde ladies and over videos that are titled How to Prevent Banana Rot for the Apocalypse. Yeah. It's just his whole life is huge asses, prostate disease, and corn hoarding. And it is not working.
No one is paying attention to him.
No one is paying attention to it. But if you dive a little bit deeper, you'll find something very strange, which is that Dr. Leo's not the only one making this style of video. Definitely the only one making videos this good. But there is clearly some kind of network at play here. And it's all like this, as Sean said, it's all on channels with like a few dozen subscribers, and all they do is upload clips from this kind of shit, from hour-long stock footage, remix, infomercials like Gorilla Flow, but without the Shub magic. Like I've watched so many of them, they don't include Mercy killing your piss father. None of them do.
Yeah, that's why I love that you found this. I love our job where we can find and appreciate the special lunatics, because the Leo Shubs out there, the magic Leo Shubs, they're drowning in an ocean of survival gym 999s. You know what I mean? Like, just there's a million of this asshole, and there's just so few Leo Shubs. Are you guys familiar with a guy named Ray Lindstrom? Do you know who that is? He was kind of this marketing madman who he was responsible for a lot of like ads and infomercials in the 90s for all kinds of weird products. Like, if you saw a commercial for like hypnosis over the phone or 1-900 party lines, there's one that goes viral all the time where it's like, was your cat reincarnated? Napoleon? Amelia Earhart? Call now and we'll tell you whose ghost is in your cat. 1999 first minute, blah, blah, blah. So like he just was responsible for all those. I think that worked. But there's like that barrier of entry where they had to put it on TV. And so its insanity was notable just because it was on TV. Like when you saw like head on, apply directly to the forehead, that's pretty normal for the internet. But for a television commercial, you're like, that's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And I don't know. I guess I bring it up because the internet doesn't have that. And so when you see a Leo Shub, unless you're like, should I give this any weight in my life? You're just going to say like, this is spam. I'm going to just ignore it. And so, I think we're exposed to his level of crazy all day through like Chumbox ads and things you see sort of in the corners of pages you're looking at directly with your eyeballs. You just, your mind says, ignore this. But I don't know. There's something about this where you can feel the effort. You can feel the desperation. It just feels special. Leo Shub is a special kind of maniac.
What I find most fascinating about it, after uncovering that there are at least hundreds of these videos that are, the magic length seems to be 45 minutes to an hour long. They're all like this with this stock footage. They're very clearly hand curated, like a person, not an AI, is going through them and assembling them, writing the script, narrating them. It has to take, it looks cheap, it's stock footage, whatever. You still have to do it. It takes a lot of money to make something like that in internet ad terms anyway, where you can just like blast out some cheap, AI bullshit. So there's some vast network at play that is making these with a very identifiable style. Like they start with the countdown. They start with that weird doomsday countdown that all of Leos do. The like, if you wait to the hard pitch at the end, it's always like, something has eliminated all of our supplies. You have to order exactly 6 bottles from us, or the next time you come, you won't find it. It won't be there. Like the pricing is the same. There's like a template, which means there's like, it can't be individual. There has to be a company that is at the very least making these ads for somebody.
That will do walk-in on command. If you say, hey, please do some of this ad as Christopher Walken, they'll be like, absolutely.
No, because Dr. Leo's a real guy. We found the picture of him, and it's the actual guy in the stock footage. He's an actual dude with the medical license that we found, with the medical practice that we found. So he's a real guy doing this. How the hell does that happen? How does he inject himself into like a vast churning network of templated?
Maybe it's his company. Maybe he did it.
He's the mastermind, and this is his like.
He's the Ray Lindstrom.
If we were real journalists, we could find this out. That there may
Just
be
look
like
it up, yeah.
that there may be like a workshop where they teach you, like, here's the format it works. This is the ideal time we found, because if you get them engaged this long, they're more likely to buy because of like the sunk cost of the time spent. And on like we will give you a discount on access to the stock video library or whatever. But it's weird that they obviously have not, because if this had been just AI chum where they had thrown together a bunch of stock videos with a voiceover talking about, obviously prostate health, we wouldn't have cared. It's the extra flair that Dr. Shub threw on there, and just burning his own reputation as a doctor and as a sane human
to the ground,
portraying himself as just as a dick, as a crazy person, as someone who has no interest in science or in medical ethics. Like, even his own description of like, yeah, we brewed this in my garage. And this is, you know, it's like, don't tell Big Pharma about this. Don't tell your doctor about this. Just, you know, and then with the 2PT throwing in all of these extra claims, like, oh yeah, it'll also improve your gut health. It'll make your dick bigger. It'll improve the size and volume of your ejaculate.
And flavor.
Yeah, the flavor. That's right. I forgot about that. Jesus, there's so much I forgot.
He tried to sell it to women because
were
it
buying
would make...
it because they made the semen taste so good.
Because, again, in his mind, that's how he sees women, again, only caring about men through how their penises perform, and nothing else, nothing about their personalities, their jobs, anything whatsoever. It's purely, how hard do you ejaculate? How far do you urinate? How long do you urinate? How hard do you get? Like, with sex, it's not even about technique. It's purely about how rigid is your boner.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I do think Jason's right, though, that somewhere along this grift line is where the money was actually made. Someone sold a seminar on how to make a video to sell your stupid supplement. And that guy made money. And then Dr. Leo Shub paid that guy $18,000 or whatever to learn how to make exactly this video that are all over the internet. And nobody cares about these videos. Or if they did, they stopped several years ago.
No, I couldn't find a single one that had any meaningful amount of views. Nobody cares about these videos.
At one point, one of these was like the Miss Cleo of crazy clip art, stream of consciousness sales techniques. And that guy made $1 zillion, and everyone's like, we got to do exactly what that guy did.
If I cannot find the source, I would love to find that if you find this where this style originated. I did find a few key evolutions along the way. I found one for a thing called Pocket Farm, and it's the same formula. There's no narration in this one. It's just text, but it's still saying it's from the point of view of a guy. And what that did right is that stole like the personal tragedy, because they don't always have a personal tragedy. That stole like, or perhaps originated Leo Shub's personal tragedy angle, because that one starts off with this man who used to be a farmer saying, raiders came along and burned my farm to the ground, and they tried to lynch my entire family for the crime of growing our own food. And they didn't even want it. They just hated our food. And as it goes along, it turns out they were secretly working for a food corporation trying to destroy their competition.
Yeah, Monsanto. It's every time.
Yeah, their agents of big food. They were big food. But even that like kind of follows, because Pocket Farm is marketed to crazy preppers and survivalists. So you're like, that's the story they would want.
Right.
And it lacks that Shub magic, because Shub's was for just piss power. Like, nobody wants that. And then he tried to tie the death of his father and like the destruction of his marriage into piss power. It's that like complete disconnection there. I found another that doesn't revolve like Roadhouse style, like Gorilla Flow revolves around the force of your piss. The whole world does. Everything about it. It has like this it's for a berry. It's for a berry that gives you telepathy, and it's pretty good.
Okay.
It's the second best one I found. But I think the mistake is its market again. Like where Pocket Farm was like, I could kind of see what you're talking about. Like nobody's going to come along and try to hang you for growing potatoes. That's fucking crazy. But maybe a survivalist thinks that way. I'll just play the clip.
For thousands of years, the pineal gland has been revered for the mystical powers it possesses. You can see these ancient depictions of Sumerian gods holding pine cones, which are widely accepted to represent our pineal gland. The ancient Egyptians also understood the sacred power of the pineal gland, as made evident by the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus and the human brain are remarkably similar in shape, with the pineal gland corresponding to the Eye of Horus pupil. Perhaps the most revealing is that at the center of the Vatican, one of the most holy sites in the world, sits a giant pine cone-shaped statue. And if that weren't enough to raise some eyebrows, the staff the Pope carries with him also has a pine cone engraved on it as well.
Case closed.
Case closed. Pine cones of the pineal gland pineal gland is psychic powers. And this promises this is a weird berry that unlocks your mental powers. It has about 500 views in about a year, and it's completely nuts. And one of the craziest things is that, like Leo Shub, it has an actual human host, a guy named Eric Thompson, who puts his face out there. He starts talking straight to the camera and makes all of these very crazy claims. He says he's a dentist, so it's another doctor. And after Leo, I think if I looked him up, he'd probably really be a dentist. In his backstory is that he had a really annoying patient that he hated, but he turned out to know the secret of the universe, and that's that fluoride buildup on your pineal gland is like hard minerals on an old water faucet, and that's why you're not psychic, is because you brush your teeth with toothpaste.
So you get in there with the tooth scraper and you get rid of the fluoride? Is that...
No, it's like a berry that is like toothpaste for your psychic gland.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, you get it. It inserts a nice little special amount of crazy there, but it doesn't have that same Leo magic. Like, it's promising to do something amazing. It's promising your psychic powers will get you love. It'll get you a job. It'll get you mystical riches. It'll just get you superpowers, like actual superpowers.
Leo has that magic of he wants to be like a straight shooter. So he kind of wants to be like a little lewd, working a little blue. So he'll like, the 2PT especially, like, I'll tell it to you straight. It'll make your fucking dick so sweet. He could just talk about urine flow. There's a lot of medical terms for the things he's talking about, but he'd much rather talk about sawing a tree in half with your fucking piss. And
your
so I think
fucking dick.
And yeah, that's another thing that I like about him.
Vampires suck the blood out of your dick. Yeah, it's just...
Yeah, that was from...
So you know how people complain that if you try to look up a recipe on the internet, they all start with like 6 paragraphs of, my mother used to make this for me back in the old country in Estonia. And today, every morning we used to get up and the smell of the stew and blah, blah, blah. And people get annoyed because, like, just get to the recipe. The reason people do that is because now that content can be automated. The only way to separate out your thing is to put your personality in it. This is a thing every author knows now. This is a thing anybody knows now. That when information can just be spammed, the only thing that makes people seek out yours as being unique is that they know the person attached to it. So this is why there's no advertising as effective as influencer advertising, where Mr. Beast has his goddamn line of candy bars or whatever, and people buy them.
You're not gonna tell me,
works.
I'm a beast head.
Is that what his fans are called, beast heads?
I can't even imagine.
So
who would give any kind of a shit? Who above the age of 4 would fucking care?
Beast friends.
This is why Alex Jones is a multimillionaire. This is why Joe Rogan is probably getting close to being a billionaire at this point. Am I correct about that? Probably getting close to be billionaire with a B. Because it's not just, hey, this is my show where we smoke weed and talk to a celebrity for 5 hours. It's also, hey, this brain fuel herb. If you just throw that on the shelf, yeah, you'll sell some of it. People happen to stumble across the jar of it at Walgreens and think, oh, I would like to be smarter. But when it comes from Joe Rogan, straight shooter, regular guy, you like him. That's a brand you can trust. And so if you're going to sell snake oil, that's how you do it. And it does not work if Joe Rogan is just a normal, smart person. He has to be a weed-smoking weirdo talking about, talking with flat earthers and talking about UFOs and all of that stuff. And for some reason, that in 2024 is how things are sold. You have to become an influencer and you put your own face on it. And that is what Leo Shub was trying to do, because he instinctively knew this is how it works. If you can make people into Shubheads, make them like you as a person, then they will buy your thing. And trying to make himself seem a little bit quirky and weird and odd and kind of defiant and a rebel and all of that. It all plays into it. It's also calculated. Again, making the fact that it only has 25 views 1,000 times funnier.
Oh, it is so funny. There's like a downstream, there's like manure runoff from this grift where these products get reviewed a lot. So if you look for Gorilla Flow, you'll find a lot of like random men and women getting to the bottom of it, like doing reviews of it. And they're not hiding from the word scam. So you'll see like a woman will come on and review Gorilla Stream. I found a lot of these where she's like, "Hey, just today, the video, we're going to check and see if Gorilla Stream is a scam. Nope. But I don't have a prostate, so do your own research." And like, this is,
that's all
stupid.
paid. That's all
Yes.
paid. They had to pay them some $40 or some trivial amount
it
of
could only
money.
cost like $40, so it'd be stupid not to just buy a whole bunch of them. And so, and a lot of them fully embrace the scam, and they'll be like, "Hey, Gorilla Flow is completely exposed as a scam," and then you watch the video, and it's like, no, it actually works pretty good. And obviously, this is so that when someone actually exposes this as a scam, they'll end up second in Google's results, because our children will inherit a world run by robots, programmed and deceived by the dumbest, worst people. I guess that's the lesson we've learned today from Leo Shub.
But I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that on one side of the war, you have the robots. And on the other side, the resistance is the weird cult grifters. Because the Leo Shub is like, I'm trying to break through in a world of automated bots or whatever, because they can generate, banner ads for their fake powders at the rate of 1 million per second. That me using my weird freak show personality, I'm going to cut through and using this human touch, the kind of crazy that can only come from a flesh and blood human being. That's how I'm going to beat the robots. So our version of where we were picturing a Terminator type war between these cybernetic skeletons, metal skeletons, against human, ragtag human survivors. Instead, it's all in the realm of this software, where it's the automated bots on one side and the weirdo grifters on the other.
Yeah,
and instead of time travel, it's piss play.
I still wish I could. I wish I could talk about Sam Forster and that weird book he wrote. If we don't feel like we've gone too long,
I think it's very relevant. Yeah.
So while we were preparing for this, it went viral. The main character on Twitter yesterday was a journalist I've never heard of named Sam Forster, who only has a few thousand followers on Twitter. He's written for some outlets, and he announced that he was about to publish his self-published book, and that he had spent the last few months. I'll just read out his announcement tweet. "Last summer, I disguised myself as a black man," he's white, and traveled throughout the United States to document how racism persists in American society. The book is called Seven Shoulders, said it was one of the hardest things he's ever done as a journalist. And then in the announcement on Amazon, it says that Seven Shoulders is the most important book on race ever written.
Amazing.
Is the most important book on American race relations that has ever been written. And this was, again, such amazing backlash and outrage. It was trending all day, and his original announcement tweet has 14 million views. I'm looking at it right now because of all
Dr. Leo's got to be so mad.
All the people dunking on it. And then the book finally came out today, as the day we're recording this, and it immediately came out as the #1 book in racism on Amazon on that subject. Because, of course, he got more publicity than I will get in the 10 months I'm going to spend promoting I'm starting to worry about this black box of doom, which is going to include me appearing on something like 40 hours of podcasts just in the last month that it comes out, and will go about $30,000 out of pocket on various promotional things I'm paying for myself, and sending out review copies to about 60 different journalists and reviewers that I sent out myself. And then there's a publicity push from the publisher. I will not reach 10% of what this guy did just by making himself Twitter's freak show main character of the day. Now, long term, will this work for him? Probably. How long have some of these grifters kept the grift going?
You'd have to pivot to like direct hate to like sort of stay in that community.
I get your frustration, Jason, but you need to set aside your pride. You have just been shown a method that works. I think you know what you need to do for those podcasts.
Now we're talking. Disguise yourself as a black man.
That's it. I love that he wrote this book because blackface is not very good. Like, you can tell. There's almost nobody that has ever done, like, a real passable blackface.
They caught Rachel Dolezal after she became the president of the Spokane NAACP 17
Well, he's
years
referencing
later.
the book Black Like Me by John Howard Griffin. Came out in the 1960s.
Right.
Famous book. A lot of us read it in high school, where it was, at the time, again, the 60s were a different time. And back then, like, the only way to get through to white readers to say, because I've read Black Like Me, it's, you know, his whole point was he actually was not pretending to be black. He just darkened his skin and then just walked around with darkened skin. And his point in that book, in Black Like Me, was he's like, if somebody asks me what I'm doing or who I am, I'm just going to tell. He's like, if somebody asks me what I dyed my skin dark. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, his whole thing was, I'm going to see how people treat me based purely on my skin being darker. I'm talking like myself. Same credentials, same job, same everything. The only thing I've changed is the color of my skin. And of course, this was the 1960s. He, you know, had to sit in a different part of the bus and underwent all of these little petty discriminations and humiliations. It was a very compelling piece of work because his point he was making was he was not going around doing an accent. The whole idea is like everything about me. Oh,
you know Sam Forster is, though. You know Sam Forster is talking some jive.
Well, it's
I would bet anything he's talking jive. He said he was a black man, which means he's going around in blackface. He spent however long he said, 8 months, something like that. Like, so it's not quality blackface. So what he really did was write a book about how people treat you when you're doing blackface everywhere.
I think the knee-jerk reaction that I think most people responded to this tweet with was like, you know, there are black people and we can ask them what it's like to spend 8 months as a black person. Like, we don't need whites for this anymore.
Yeah, but has anybody done a book about what happens if you do blackface and everybody knows it? I mean, that's the real.
I would
that's
maybe
the real
read
impression.
that. Yeah.
Do either of you know how many books are published every day in the United States?
I would have no
million.
idea. No number would surprise me.
Yeah, it's over 1,000. 500,000 books were published in 2023. So that's, what is that, like 1,100 a day, something like that? I don't know. So of all of those 1,000 books that were written, many of them are actually really good and will never be read. The vast majority will be read by 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. Like most books that are published, do you understand, listeners, sell like 27 copies. Even stuff you see at the bookstore. Like there's books at the bookstore that those will have sold less than 100 copies in their entire run. This guy, like I'm looking at the Amazon sales ranks, he's not number 1 like in overall, but it's like number 15,000 is where it is right now after most of the day. He has sold some copies of this book. This book has already, after 1 day, self-published, has sold more than most books published this year will sell. And did it by doing the look at me, I'm a little freak thing. By doing, and I feel like, you know, for people who don't know the context here, I joined TikTok 2 years ago because the world told me the only way to promote your books is to put your own big stupid face on the camera and make it all about you because people want to know you. And then once you've convinced them that you are smart and likable and interesting and clever, then they will buy your book. But just saying, hey, I wrote a book about blank, that doesn't do anything because AI can write books now. Do you understand? AI is cranking out crime thrillers or whatever at the rate of several per second. So no matter what your book is about, that's not going to do anything. But to be able to put yourself out there and say, hey, look, I'm a weird little freak. I bet you're wondering what I wrote in my weird little freak book. That is how you do it. In other words, we are all Dr. Leo Shubs now, if we want to have careers.
So get on that TikTok and start talking jive.
Already done. What it is.
Einstein, Hunter, Frankfurt. Einstein, Hunter, Frankfurt. Unser Podcast genau. Und mit maximalem Schau. Dog Frankfurt Podcast. Korrekt. Ja. Der Kraft ist nicht gratis, nicht ohne. Schick die in die Hundezone. 4 eine Stunde.